Mr. Speaker, one of the great things about public housing in Singapore is that not only do residents have town councils to manage their property professionally, but these town councils must be held accountable for their actions and expenses. They are also subject to annual town council management reports to ensure that they are kept on their toes in servicing the residents. In contrast, strata title properties get a lot more flexibility in terms of regulations and management. The downside is this can result in slack and allows inefficiency to set in. Clearly, the amendments to the bill are in direct response to a series of feedback concerning management rules in strata title properties. While strata title properties are private property, the government has a duty to ensure that the welfare of the people living in these properties are not being compromised. The bill is of great relevance to me as there are several condominiums in my GRC. I have discussed it with residents, MC members, and others, and I'm pleased to use this opportunity to share their feedback. The majority of these amendments are welcome, as it is believed that they will do right by the residents and safeguard their rights to the quality of life that they pay for. Perhaps the most crucial amendment is that it gives strata title property residents the right to a safe living environment. Concerned that window grills would affect the seamless aesthetics of a condominium, the installation of such grills are sometimes disallowed by the MCSTs. This can be a dilemma for those who have young children or elderly members at home. Aside from safety grills, I hope that the amendment will also be extended to other items, especially in the interest of safety for everyone, such as replacement of windows. Limiting the use of proxies is a good move to prevent any one person in a management committee from collecting votes and influencing decision-making to their own benefit. In some of the condominiums in my constituency, I received feedback about 1 or 2 persons holding many proxy lots. Many residents have been telling me that in one particular condominium, there's a property agent who owns a unit, and she does not live inside that condominium. But every time when AGM is approaching, she'll go around collecting proxies, even standing at the guardhouse to collect proxies. And this enables her to sway outcomes at the AGM according to her desire, even if the decision was in fact not a popular one or beneficial to the majority. The amendment will not only lead to a fairer decision-making process, but will hopefully encourage residents and owners to be more actively involved in running their own estate. In another condo, I was told that there was one person who was a chairman, was a treasurer, and the secretary. And with this change, chairman, secretary, and treasurer have to be held by 3 different persons. This is certainly a welcome move. As the role of a treasurer is heavily involved with the management of the finances, it will also be prudent to set some criteria to eliminate unsuitable candidates. Perhaps the appointee should not have a criminal record, especially if it relates to financial crimes. Realistically speaking, it would be impractical to enforce mandatory background checks on all would-be treasurers. But it is important to have a treasurer with good integrity and with some knowledge of accounts. One possibility is to ask a prospective appointee to make a declaration whether the person has a criminal record. It is a fair move to allow rental and charges derived from common property to be placed into the MCST's management fund. This should help to create another viable avenue for getting funds for maintenance, thus reducing problems of poor or inadequate maintenance due to lack of funds and the need to raise services fees every year. However, when the rental fees for substantial amounts of common properties to commercial enterprises, such as an F&B outlet, are involved, it should be a requirement to seek approval from the subsidiary proprietor through a special resolution to channel the money into the fund. And all the transactions on renting out the common property area should be arm's length dealings. On approval of maintenance charges before sale launch of the property, this is a welcome move, but it would be even better if the published charges could also include the expenses per share value for 3 years, taking into account a 3% per annum inflation. Additionally, the estimated time and expenses for the first replacements of leaves, pumps, and water tanks should also be made known. This will not only help MCSTs to better manage finances, but also gives buyers a heads up. Some young buyers especially put their deposits on a dream condominium they can barely afford without taking the monthly maintenance fees into consideration. If a managing agent has been appointed for a 3-year term, it might seem to be a waste of time and resources to do an annual review on his or her performance during the AGM. However, I believe the reason this was stipulated in the first place is because 3 years is a long period of time and could breed complacency if there are no reviews in place. A long-time trusted MA would not require such frequent reviews, but there should be an option in every strata title to appoint MAs for shorter terms, such as a 1-year term. Once the MCSTs have been formally constituted, it is important that the balance of monies transferred by the developer from the maintenance fund to the MCST's bank account be a positive amount. This will ensure a smooth handover without deficit in the account, and it would discourage misuse of funds. However, a minimum amount should be considered. After all, a $1 balance is still a positive balance. I'm also pleased to note that it will officially be an offense to fail to return relevant documents to the MCST. Oftentimes, developers and managing agents hold on to the documents, and regardless whether it is done intentionally or not. Without relevant past records and references, it would impact on the management abilities of the incumbent MCST. I wish to ask if there should be a penalty for failure to return the documents within a stipulated period of time. And I would also like to suggest to go one step further in listing down what are the documents to be handed over from developer to the MC. Recently, I have just mediated between the residents and the developers because residents wanted to have M&E as-built drawing of their unit, but the developer says that they are not obliged to supply, which I'm quite surprised. So it is good to list what are the minimum, like as-built drawings, all those certificates of guarantee. Transparency pertaining to management matters is important, but so is privacy. The switch to managing data by electronic means will no doubt make matters much more convenient for those involved. Given the rise in cyber crimes, security measures must be in place to prevent data theft. And as it has now become a requirement to display not just the names, but also addresses of eligible voters for a general meeting, it would be prudent to ensure that the data is not given unnecessary exposure. The duration of display should be stipulated, after which it should be removed. About 4 hours after the general meeting would be a reasonable amount of time. Online payment modes should also be allowed and encouraged as they are more convenient for property owners, and it is also easier to keep records of transactions. And last but not least, I would like to ask the standardization use of either working days or calendar days, because in the Act you have working days, you have calendar days. Mr. Speaker, Chinese please. 这次修法将给公寓居民带来更多保障，尤其是一人不能掌握多份投票权，以及管理委员会不能阻止居民装窗花等条例。我建议，如果在公寓出售时可公布首3年的维修费，那可让买家更有心理准备。 尤其是积蓄较少的年轻买家。此外，委员会财政应该和主席不是同一人，而且必须公开自己是否有犯罪记录，给居民更多保障。Mr. Speaker, I support the bill and I believe it will help to facilitate more fairness and professionalism in the management of strata title properties. Thank you.